Hello! You are joining me live for today's episode of Princess Interrupted, the podcast. I'm your host, Allison Ziggy, and today we're going to be diving into how you can leverage twin flame heartbreak to unlock your spiritual gifts. Yes, please. The twin flame dynamic is really unique because the most valuable part of the relationship is actually healing from the relationship. This isn't your standard, we met, we dated, we broke up, move on, find someone else dynamic. Oftentimes, this is a person from your past who you have deeper feelings for than you've ever had for anyone else. And there's an element of spiritual connectedness that you haven't experienced before with anybody else. There can be elements of things like telepathy, elements like synchronicities, where you see things in your external reality that remind you of this person. There can be dreams, things that feel deeper than just I can't get over this person, I can't understand why. The thing about this connection is that while it comes off as really mystical, there are logical explanations for why you're experiencing what you're experiencing. And I'm sharing this with you because when you have a better understanding of what this is, you're able to release the attachment to the connection, because ideally, that's what the goal of this entire experience is to return the love back to yourself that you've been projecting out onto another person. Most likely, this person hurt you in a way that mirrors your deepest wounds and your deepest hurts. And by healing from this experience, you're going to be able to step into an expression of self-love that you've never been able to experience before. It kind of breaks you open in order to become the fullest version of yourself, is the way that I now look at the twin flame experience. When we're talking about healing from the twin flame experience, it's talking about healing from the separation. This is the perceived period of time that happens after you and your twin flame are no longer dating. Within the twin flame dynamic, you might find it way harder to move on than you have in other connections. And the reason for this is because this person triggers your deepest feelings of insecurity and your deepest feelings of not having the life that you want. What I'm here to tell you today is the 3 things that you can do in order to move on from this connection and to actually transmute this into unlocking your spiritual gifts. This connection is intended to be a gift. This isn't something from the universe that's designed to punish you. I used to look at trauma and I would worry sometimes like, wow, okay, so I went through something when I was a kid and then now I'm going through it again. It's just like you're being punished for your trauma. This is not the reality of the healed perspective of what's happening psychologically. What's happening is that you're attracting situations that are triggering your deepest roots so that you can heal and release them once and for all. You become a stronger person through having experienced and lived through these things. It gives you a dimension to your emotional reality. It gives you experience, it gives you wisdom, it gives you hope, it gives you things that otherwise wouldn't be available to you. I like to look at this through a spiritual perspective of this is the lesson that your soul decided to come here to learn. If you're in a twin flame dynamic, a twin flame situation, likely your soul really wanted to master self-love in this lifetime. You wanted to release these deep-rooted soul connections, this rejection wound. These are signs that if you're experiencing this path, you have a huge opportunity here. There is a secondary gain that comes from being on this path. And I've experienced this myself where when dating, I've been able to look at situations and heal so much more easily as a result of healing from the twin flame experience because of the tremendous amount of pain that I experienced within this one particular relationship. I was able to approach other relationships from a much more healed, healthy perspective and a better understanding of not taking things personally when they don't work out. These are 3 things that I wish I would have learned earlier on my journey so that I didn't hold on to heartbreak for an unnecessarily long amount of time, because there is so much gold after you transmute this energy and you turn it into something that can be used for good. You can apply this in your own life about how these lessons can actually help you transcend to your next level of spirituality and healing. The secondary gain is nothing will ever hurt as badly as this experience. I got over that. I can handle anything. And I think that there's a lot of value in this, but it is also shifting out of this necessity to move on, like get over it. You determine the amount of time that this takes. It's a matter of energetically aligning to your desired circumstances and getting out of alignment with the heartbreak code energy. And the unfortunate thing about this is that until you heal, this is going to be in your energetic field. If you are still healing from a twin flame dynamic, a twin flame relationship, and you're going out and attempting to date other people, but you're just looking for a placeholder, or you're trying to date someone until this connection comes around, or you're still holding a flame for your twin flame, you're going to find it harder to actually connect with people who want something serious, because energetically, you're not looking for something serious. Energetically, you have a huge block in front of your heart that's preventing you from truly getting to know people. This relationship isn't something that you can just move on from the same way that you can maybe in other relationships. If you're still in the spot where you're like, I really want to manifest my twin flame back, that is a huge misuse of your energy. You are putting so many limits on what you believe to be possible for your life. And I understand deeply, intimately understand what you might be feeling right now. And I understand that you feel like this one person is the only person who can make you happy, or anything else would feel like settling, or this connection was so deep and so intense. I've never experienced anything like that in my life. How am I supposed to date other people? If dating other people isn't what feels good for you right now, lean into healing the connection. But I am here to tell you that you're meant to experience life. And this heartbreak was one of the things that your soul desired to experience. You likely have a hard time moving on from it because it is spiritual. It likely has past life ties. It likely still has ties in a different dimension, the 5D or so. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to move on from it. And psychologically, we can also examine that angle if this is really hard to move on from, because it likely mirrors past wounding that you've experienced, either when you were a child or even insecurities. The biggest limiting belief block that I find with clients that I work with is the feeling of not enough. With this twin flame person, this perceived rejection, this relationship not working out can just really press on your fear of not being enough. And it feels like validation in your external reality. Like, I'm not enough, otherwise this would have worked out. But that is not true. That is how you are choosing to perceive the situation. And a lot of times with the twin flame dynamic, you're inserting yourself and creating a whole narrative that doesn't even need to exist. The twin flame journey isn't as much about them as it is about you. It's all about your path to self-love. And relationships are a mirror to the way that we think about ourselves. And you probably can look back on when you met this person and think about your state of mind, your headspace, where you were at when you were in a relationship with this person, and you've likely changed and grown. And the thing is, you're holding on to this tie to this connection. People can continue to be special to us long after they're no longer in our lives. It's your attachment to the outcome, or needing it to mean something, or needing vengeance. That's what's causing these undesired situations in your body. The other thing with a twin flame dynamic is oftentimes because this has been in your energetic field for so long, those grooves, those neural pathways in your brain are so deep. And you think about romantic love, this has the deepest, most powerful energy. And so it would make sense that even years later, you would continue to feel sensations. Like maybe you see their name pop up and it causes a cortisol spike in your body. You feel the nervous system pings. You're going to be able to release this so that the pings won't last as long, so that it won't set you back as often. It won't set you back for as long of a period of time. And you're able to observe the old thoughts without attaching to the old story. You're able to kind of perceive it through a different level of consciousness when you heal from it, where you no longer see a sign from your twin flame. Let's say you see synchronicity and attach meaning to it, but you're able to release it. I had a dream this week about my twin flame, which is interesting. I haven't dreamt about my twin flame in a really long time. And in the dream, my twin flame and his partner had a standing dinner reservation at this restaurant every 6 weeks. So that doesn't sound like something I would ever think to do on my own. That's so not me. I was talking to a friend about it in the dream, and I was like, wow, maybe we're not as compatible as I thought. Maybe we actually are really different. I said something in the dream, and in the dream I didn't fully believe it, but I felt like it was a socially acceptable thing to say. It was like, yeah, I guess they're just meant to be together. I felt like this element of dishonesty come up within me. I looked up and I saw my spirit symbol, which is like this specific type of crane. And I saw it in the dream. In the past, I would have interpreted that as like a wink between me and the universe. Like, girl, you know, he's meant to be with you. Let the story play out. But from this healed perspective, I was able to see that and look at it and think about what that meant actually. Part of me perceived it as like a wink from the universe. Like, you know that the love that you desire is ultimately on the way. Is how I would have interpreted it secondarily. But that still shows an element of deep attachment to an outcome. I deeply desire love. I really want to be in a healthy partnership. I want a relationship to be one of the best areas of my life. So that still felt attached. And I really started to really think about what this meant. With the crane coming overhead, it was kind of a call and a reminder to be more honest with myself and not to say things that I didn't mean, but also not to try to predict the future here. When we have trauma, it can be really addicting to try to predict outcomes because it feels safer to know what's going to happen, this need for certainty. But you don't actually want certainty. You want to create a life of purpose, a life of meaning. You want these things, and you can get these things through healing from your unfavorable circumstances. This can sound like the opposite of what you want to hear, but hear me out, because if you're on this path, you likely have spiritual gifts that are untapped. I'm not saying this to feed into your ego. I'm saying this because this is a niche, unique experience. But you likely have spiritual gifts because this is a deep level of empathy. You're dealing with things on different realms. You're energetically connecting to yourself. And when you have trauma and you're able to transmute that pain into meaning and purpose and able to use it to help other people, you really are living in alignment with your purpose. So this is actually a good thing, and your soul chose this path because you were capable of walking it, and you're capable of becoming the person on the other side of this experience. It is somewhat about the secondary gain of this hurt me and I'm always going to be okay because I got over that. But beyond that, it's finally giving the love back to yourself that you projected onto this other person and seeing your own value regardless on what the external world is showing you. It's easy to feel on top of the world when everything's working out for you. But who are you in the face of these disappointments and these setbacks? My favorite thing that I really want to share with you going through this, get curious with what's coming up. When you start to feel those pings, those nervous system sensations, when your twin flame's mentioned, when you see his name, when you see things come up, start to get curious about what's actually, this is just trying to get your attention. You'll get better at regulating, and I have all kinds of tools and techniques. I have a guide that you can download. It's free, like Twin Flame Heartbreak Healing Guide. But you'll get better at understanding what this is trying to show you. And maybe it's just showing you that there are still parts of yourself in this connection that are unhealed. This is a really deep connection. And it's okay to continue to have love for someone. In the old days, if people went our old separate ways, you wouldn't ever hear from them again. And now with social media, you have the ability to keep tabs on other people's lives who aren't in your life actively anymore. This can be really dangerous psychologically if you are keeping tabs or checking up or comparing yourself, especially if they're with a new partner. Someone you used to love has moved on, and that is okay. That doesn't mean anything about you as a person. You're not in competition with this perceived third party. They're not the reason that you're not with your twin flame. That's a common misconception, is that if this person wasn't in the picture, you would be in union. That's probably not true. This person was probably sent to teach you a lesson so that you could deeply love yourself. And whatever is going on in their life, it really doesn't concern you. If you're still keeping tabs, if you're still checking up, I really suggest you heal from that. Promise yourself that you're not going to look, especially not for the purpose of making yourself upset. There was this moment where I used to be addicted to like looking at their life because I needed to know. It almost like hurt so good, it felt so raw. It made me feel alive in like a negative way, but it made me feel alive to like see what was going on because it like triggered my nervous system. Like it made me feel really bad. And I was addicted to feeling really bad. If you've ever heard of upper limiting, you have an emotional set point, an emotional threshold. And if you're used to pain, especially if you grew up in a chaotic household, you might start to get addicted to these little things going wrong. And it almost feels like you're in control of it because you're the one creating it. You're the one going to their page. But there was one night, I was moving out of Chicago. And it was a heartbreaking thing. I didn't want to be moving. I was moving to North Carolina with my dad, and I just felt so down. I felt like I was on the rock bottom of the world. There was this moment where I was like, oh, I have to see. I have to look. I went to my phone, and it was 10:43, which was the time I was born. And I was like, I have a choice right now. So this is how I started to interpret synchronicities. I was like, I have a choice right now. This could be like a moment of rebirth, or I could fall into the same pattern that I've been falling into. And I wrote a phone note, and I said, I will not check social media for the purpose of making myself upset. And I stopped. At the time, I felt like everyone was getting married, everybody was moving in together, dreaded all their milestones. And I was like, everybody else has these milestones, and I'm like moving in with my dad, like I'm a loser. So I created a new account and focused on myself. I just couldn't be around this energy of feeding into this narrative that I was somehow less than because of the path that my life had taken. There's reasons that this relationship didn't work out. If you were meant to be with this other person, you would be with them. They would be in your life. There's nothing you can do to mess up the right connection. The person who is meant to be by your side will be by your side. Don't judge your timeline. Don't let society tell you that you need to have it figured out by a certain day or a certain time, because all that does is it will convince you to settle in the wrong relationship. And it is so much more lonely to be alone in a relationship than it is to be single and empowered. Even if they're in a relationship and you're like, I need to get in a relationship, it won't work because your energy will be repelling. Your energy will give off this element of desperation. Your energy will give off this wall in front of your heart. And when you release that and you feel the rawness and you stop triggering yourself and you actually let yourself heal, there's so much beauty and power on the other side. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. This is likely the perpetuation of a pattern. It's probably the apex of a pattern, like the most prevalent, pronounced example of a pattern. And there is so much freedom in healing yourself from this pattern. I also just want to share that desire that you have for this deep, everlasting, once-in-a-lifetime love, you still get to have that. Just because this person is not who you thought they were, this connection does not mean what you initially believed it to mean, does not mean that you don't get to have that. Detaching from outcome is really important because this attachment to your desire is going to keep it at arm's bay. I'm hosting a 3-day workshop this upcoming week in preparation for Valentine's Day. It's called Flowers for V-Day. And it's all about clearing your romantic past, present, and future so that you can call in the love that you've always desired. But getting clear on the past and letting this be okay and letting the fact that this relationship didn't work out not derail you or taint your perspective of what's available for love is so important in the journey. And being okay, not comparing yourself to where this other person's at, not making them your competitor, not judging yourself for it not working out, not replaying and wishing that things could be different and what you would work out. But using this as a tool to understand about yourself, why was I so drawn to this person? Why was I so obsessed with this person? Why did I make this mean that? What deeper beliefs are there within me that I felt the need to really get clear on that? That is such valuable insight and valuable information. And when you can turn that love that you were projecting outward on the other person towards yourself, you will unlock your truest essence, your truest self, and life will take on a different form. You are capable and worthy of attracting the love that you desire. It's just healing these unhealthy patterns, these unhealthy meanings that you've assigned to the energy. I'm Allison. I help you heal heartbreak and turn it into your spiritual gifts. Please like, subscribe, share. Let me know how you're vibing with these twin flame episodes. I share a lot on Instagram as well. And again, my workshop's coming up this week. I would love for you to join us. I love you. Thank you so much for being here today.